Hi class, I wanted to do a video for week 6. I wanted to briefly talk about what Meyer and Northridge were sort of getting at when they talked about access barriers. So of course, since 2010, we've had a good increase in folks who are accessing health insurance, but we continue to have a lot of barriers that I think a lot of research forgets about or maybe isn't aware about. And one of those, especially in regards to the transgender and genderqueer communities, is sort of this overarching notion of the gender binary. And as we see with cancer registries, there isn't descriptive enough demographics that are taken, such as a non-binary gender identity or sexual orientation. But when I sort of think about these so-called access barriers, I don't necessarily think about physically accessing healthcare, which of course still is a huge issue in the United States and around the world. But what I think about with access barriers is sort of this lack of cultural sensitivity in a lot of our healthcare systems and networks. Lambda Legal did a pretty comprehensive study back in 2010 where they surveyed a couple thousand folks across the nation, and there was a significant amount of people who identified as transgender, as well as along the lines of sexual minority, whether it's homosexual, bisexual, asexual, whatever, reported, fear of being discriminated against, fear of being stigmatized, reporting that they aren't able to talk to their doctor about certain things like sexuality, sexual identity, and dealing with some of the health disparities. So when I think of cancer, it sort of surprises me because cancer affects the human species, almost regardless of one's identity or genetic makeup. And yet we still have difficulties in sort of accessing these rare and more hidden sexual minority populations. So I think what I got from the reading and what access barriers are is that our healthcare system, which also pertains to how we collect data and do research, may be not accessing the populations sensitively. I really support this idea of including a non-binary gender identity option in EHRs. I fully support sexual orientation data being in cancer registries. I think these are things that, especially in our day and age, can be discussed with a better chance of not being discriminated against. But many folks still do not feel comfortable disclosing this information, and I think we have to respect that for people. So it's interesting, but I think to me this notion of access barriers seems to be playing into sort of this whole notion of human identity, cultural sensitivity, collecting data in a culturally competent manner, and simply accessing these populations. So I wanted to talk about that. Along the lines of our transgender and genderqueer friends in cancer research. Gender identity is not determined by body parts. So a lot of these, genitalia or body-specific cancers like breast cancer, prostate cancer, ovarian cancer, some of the data could be skewed simply by the fact that people choose the gender identity that they so choose and feel that they are, yet they don't have the assumed body parts that in theory would elicit risk for those certain types of cancers. So I really support the idea of breaking this gender binary and how it affects our research, because our research is boxed in a way that leaves a lot of these populations out in the dust. And, to me, that's what access barriers are in a lot of cancer research. I mean, cancer research is, some of the most funded and popular health research that exists, for good reason. But, there could be a lot more inclusion in their methods of data collection. So just wanted to do a video this week. Looks like Frank wanted to say hi. Say hi, Frank. Hi, Frank. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Stay warm.